welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Welcome to Syosset Library's Turn the Page podcast. I am here with the author of the Callum Walker series, whose book Forsaken Souls is the fourth in the series, correct?
Correct, yes. It was released June 1st.
So it is available for you to grab. I'm super excited to have you on here. So welcome to Syosset Public Library's Turn the Page podcast, J.M. Shaw. Tell us a little bit about yourself and just sort of how you came to this series and this particular book.
Yeah, so I've been writing actually for over 35 years. And I started because I needed an outlet. I was very introverted and just didn't really have a lot of friends, didn't really do a lot. The oldest of 5 kids, I babysat a lot. So I just needed that outlet. My mom bought me a typewriter and I started out because I'm that old. And I started out on a typewriter and it became a hobby and then it turned into a passion. And I live vicariously through my characters because, I had questions and such, but it kind of now it's just cheaper than therapy, but I never shared anything. And then in 2019, I was diagnosed along with my 2 children with autism and ADHD. And I thought, well, maybe writing is my special interest. So I got brave and I had finished the Ascension, which is the first book in my series. And I said, I'm going to get brave and I'm going to send this to an editor because the worst they can say is it sucks. And they came back and they said, this doesn't suck. You should publish. So 2 years later, I did.
That's awesome, first of all. And I love everything about that and just sort of you embracing the idea of a special interest. I mean, a lot recently, I hear a lot of people either making a joke out of it or it becomes like, like, oh, it's so and so special interest. But I mean, I think like what you hit the nail on the head. If it's something that you can cultivate and something that makes your soul just sort of grow and gives
Yeah.
you that, and then you can share it,
Yeah.
that's an asset. It's
Yeah.
absolutely an asset that you have. So I guess like really what I want to know is Callum Walker. When did he sort of start appearing in your mind? First of all, the world is very rich. I kind of love it. You always have like a little bit of a tug of war between various, I guess, facets of what one might consider light and dark, and then everything in between. But Callum, in general, where did he begin for you, and how did you get his journey from here to from where it began to where it is now?
So Callum, I guess the idea for my story came when I was watching a Netflix series called Merlin. And I remember watching that and I'm thinking, I have an idea. And so then it just sort of morphed from there. And my character is based, kind of on my imagining of what a young Merlin in our modern times would be before he became Merlin the magician. And dealing with these gifts and these abilities and trying to make the right choices. But I don't know if anybody's read the Dean Koontz Odd Thomas series. There's a little it's like a little bit of inspiration there as well.
Adore Odd Thomas.
Yes.
Wonderful reference right there.
That was it was a blast from my childhood. I love the idea of that unlikely hero would rather not be a hero but is granted with these powers and abilities and is just trying to make the most of it.
So what is your approach to world building? Because there's so many different, types of worlds that collide here. And then you have Callum, who kind of, I guess, comes from what I don't want to call it the like mundane, but from like from something that's more recognizable to us.
Yeah. So yeah, there's this veil that separates us and Callum and us humans. We live on this, it's our world or our time. And then across the veil is this magical realm. And I've always thought of magic and medieval as synonymous. They wouldn't need technology, so why would they advance beyond this age, you know? So they use magic instead of technology and stuff. But really, when I'm writing, I visualize it in my head and I see it as a movie playing out. And I'm a lot of times just writing down what I see. I don't know where it's going to lead me, and I'm along for the ride.
That's one of my favorite things, and that's not to knock anybody who is a heavy drafter because, and I speak to a lot of them. I know a lot of authors that are like, I heavily draft everything. And then, there's those who are like discovery writers who drop themselves into the character, and it's almost like they are stumbling through the story and are just as surprised as the main character when something comes up or when there's a twist. It's almost like you're experiencing it with them.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I mean, yeah, in the beginning, like, I've never been a big plotter. Whenever I start a story, I kind of know, where to start, where to end, somewhere in the middle that needs to shift it towards that. But as I'm getting farther into the series, I'm finding that there's a lot more details that I'm carrying forward that I have to fit in there somewhere. But I always leave those room for my in the zone imagination to flow.
Did you know when you started the story that how many volumes it was going to have, or are you along the line for that as well?
I'm along the ride for that. I know where a series is going to end, and I'm aiming for about 6 to 9 books in the series, but I keep coming up with ideas, so it may be longer than that.
So this, what is the setup for this particular book itself?
So we're continuing with our character's journey, and I'll give you a quick arc of or quick overplay of this series. So yeah, there's our world, our time, coexisting magical realm, veil that separates us. We can't cross or see this veil because we don't have magic, but these creatures that do can and have, and they've been the source of our fairy tales and mythologies. And then Callum Walker, being a young man born with the ability to use magic, he doesn't know why. He's trying to make the most of it, but we do find out as we go. But he doesn't. He is able to cross this veil, becomes embroiled in this magical realm, and then through the series, we see him trying to figure out who he is, where he belongs, because he's too magic for here, too human for there, and then master these abilities to survive. The fourth book, and Souls, is just his continuation in that journey. He's meeting friends along the way. He's heading south along the Vale because an event that took place in one of the previous books has damaged the Vale, and he feels culpable for it, and he's trying to figure out a way to repair it and fix it. Even though he's been told it's impossible, he can't do it. He's stubborn to all end, and he's going to do it. And he's got a character along for the ride whose name is Jax, and I had a lot of fun creating him. But they meet with these Southern Elves called the Durgaren, and there's a history between them and the Northern Elves, which we've seen most of in the book. And they're preparing for not just a war, but a reckoning, and it will be like basically harvesting of all souls.
As far as like characters beyond the central character, um, do they pop up naturally? Like, was there anybody who you expected to sort of be one-off or background, and they were just like, no, we are in this and we are staying in the story?
Yeah, Agus surprised me. Agus is one of the elven commanders that Callum meets in the first book, and I didn't really expect him to be become such a pivotal character. But he carries through, and he's a very influential character later on in the series.
You'd mentioned also, that you just keep on coming up with ideas. I mean, would you ever do companion books about certain characters?
I'm not a big fan of spin-offs myself. But there is a couple characters that I'd like to go and explore their past because they've got a really rich past, and maybe write some side books on just what happened with them.
I mean, so we know what some of the influences are. What, like, when you write, do you have to be, is it a certain time of day? Do you listen to music? How do you get yourself in the zone? Or does the zone just kind of like the plot bunnies just sort of hop into your mind and you're like, okay, it's time?
Yeah. When I'm not writing, I'm thinking about writing. And the easiest time to write, though, is when my kids are at school. So them being out for the summer, it's challenging. There's not a lot of writing that gets done, but those quiet moments when I've got, all the chores are done, nothing's like glaring me in the face. There's no errands that need to be run. I've got my coffee in hand. I've got a snack on the side. I got my computer, and I'll sit down and I'll write. And if I'm, certain chapters and certain moods, and if I'm in a good mood or I vibe with that mood, then I will write better. And I'll tend to dip into that zone where I will forget the world exists and just continue writing.
Were you a big reader when you were younger?
I was to a certain point. You know, uh, I struggled to find, that was when I started writing. I was struggling to find something that I really connected with. So I started to write my own stories and it just sort of took off from there. But I'm getting back into reading. I have a lot of people as I'm going to events and stuff that are recommending books to me. So my to be read pile has gotten huge and I actually bought 3 bookcases.
Just for your TBR pile?
Yeah, my bookcases aren't quite full, but I mean they're decorative, they look pretty, they're so, it's kind of almost a decor thing. But yeah, I'm slowly filling those up and getting through my to be read list.
I think it's funny because I kind of was like you. I mean, I'm a librarian now and obviously I read a lot, but when I was younger, a lot of the books that were marketed to girls my age were not really what I wanted to read. If that,
Mhm.
not to knock it.
Yeah.
A lot of people have these fond memories of, and I don't want to give any names because I don't want to like book shame anybody, but there were certain things that, like my peers were reading and I would be like, yeah, no, nothing about this is appealing. So I kind of branded myself as a non-reader until I really found things that I enjoyed. But they do always say, if you're not finding what you want, write the story that you would like
Oh,
to
yeah.
read.
Yeah. And I mean, I've a very vivid imagination as it is, and I've always been a very what if person. And the what if that started this series was, what if fairy tales were more than stories and monsters are real? We just didn't know it. And then just kind of ran from there. I mean, that's not to say I haven't thought of other what ifs for other things. And the original rough draft that I wrote for the first novel for this series, I never intended it to be a series, but I spent so much time building these characters. The original rough draft was completely different than what it is now.
Would you like to share some of the things? Are you allowed to share some of the things that you changed?
There was a certain character that everybody loves from the first book who didn't make the first draft, and I was told by an editor that, this character is so lovable, you can't kill them off. And I didn't even give them a good death. So they're like, if you're gonna give them a good death, you have to show it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, you know what? I'd like to keep this character because then, they do come back later and, various cameos here and there and stuff. But then I had to write in 2 chapters to explain why they were no longer there in the story. And I made my editor cry with with one of those chapters. So
That is the sign of a good writer. Do you have a draft for a subsequent book after this one?
yes, I do. I'm working on the 5th. I'm also working on a future dystopian Robin Hood meets Romeo Juliet with hints of Hunger Games.
Whoa! Does that have a working title?
No, the title doesn't come until the end.
So that's completely separate. How
Mhm.
is that difficult to kind of like keep your mind in two different worlds?
No, because like I said, every chapter I write has a different mood. So if I'm in the mood and it doesn't necessarily fit with what I'm writing in my 5th book, I can use that mood, so to speak, and write a chapter in the other book. But my characters are completely different and I don't have a difficult time jumping between them.
So check out the Callum Walker series. I am really excited to see what you're going for with that. That sounds like a lot of fun. And you do a lot of conventions, from what I understand.
Yeah, a lot of author talks, book signings. I most recently, a couple weekends ago, I was at an RPG-a-thon in Edmonton. which is a fantasy gaming event, but I was a vendor there, so I was sharing my wares, and I had people coming in just to get my fourth book because it was not yet available in stores, and they want to get it signed. So
That's a real, that's like really cool.
yeah, that was really
That
made my
somebody
day.
came to the con just to see you.
Yes, I watched somebody come in, like the one person that I noticed when I happened to see them come in, they made a beeline right from my table. They're like, I am here for you, specifically for you, to buy your fourth book. And so I was like, oh, that makes me feel really good.
That's awesome. So yeah, check it all out. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we are going to close this chapter of Turn the Page.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.